There's a really interesting piece I saw yesterday morning in The Hill, written by Alexander Bolton. It's called Republican Worries, Republican Party Worries, Fiscal Conservatism is Losing Its Rallying Cry. And the article says a few interesting things, the big picture of which is the fiscal conservatism that for so long was a big piece of the Republican Party mantra or ideology or policy framework may be losing its sort of power and strength as a unifying factor for the Republican Party. And Bolton writes, instead, culture war issues like immigration, religious freedom, LGBTQ rights, big tech, and Black Lives Matter are taking center stage in conservative politics, saying that, quote, the initial shift in Republican political priorities away from belt tightening coincided with the demise of the Tea Party, the dominant force in the 2010 midterm elections, and the rise of now former President Trump, who presided over an $8 trillion increase in the national debt. I agree this is happening. I think that it actually started far earlier. In a sense, Reagan, while very fiscal conservatism focused, started the path of the shift to the cultural and social issues. Reagan did it by starting to talk about the welfare queen with the Cadillac and all the kids just to make some food stamp money. And that led to Newt Gingrich, who pushed the Republican Party more in the direction of the culture and social issues, which then led to George W. Bush, who was essentially incompetent economically and from a foreign policy standpoint, but was big on he's against abortion and he's born again and all this different stuff. And then we got to Donald Trump. While I completely agree that this happened, I think the timeline is actually a much more nuanced and longer timeline. But needless to say, the analysis is correct. Alexander Bolton goes on to say, now Republicans are having a tough time generating the same outrage over Biden's multi-trillion-dollar spending agenda as they did over former President Obama's signature initiatives, the American Relief and Reinvestment Act and the Affordable Care Act, which cost far less than what Biden is proposing on infrastructure. I think that there's another aspect to that. I don't think that it's because of Republican hypocrisy that now they aren't that opposed or actually are in favor of Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus or Joe Biden's planned infrastructure spending, which also has some significant Republican support. It's not that Republicans are saying, you know, when Trump blew up the deficit, we were okay with it, so maybe Joe Biden doing it isn't so bad. I don't think it's that at all. It's that the country is actually just all united on those issues and always has been. And the political clout or influence that the Republican Party had by criticizing the spending is simply not having the same impression. I don't think it's the voters that have changed. I think it's that the Republican elected officials have become less able to generate outrage over it. We've seen no evidence that they actually care about the hypocrisy. It's just that the Republican Party, given everything that's going on, given how even many in the Republican Party electorate now understand that huge income inequality is not so good. They understand that, you know, deficit, just for the sake of saying deficit is bad, is not something most of them are falling for. I think that it's the electorate that has actually come to realize that they've been fed BS by their party, not that their views have dramatically changed. And it used to be a sort of rallying cry that really got people fired up. And now it's just not. If you go back, Eisenhower was the last Republican president to preside over a balanced budget. He balanced the budget in 1956 and 1957. And since then, it's been two Democrats that balanced the budget, LBJ in 69 and Clinton during 1998 to 2001, followed by George W. Bush taking over and exploding the deficit. So when you look at how the balanced budget actually is far more common under Democratic presidents than Republicans, you realize that the Republican Party's two main economic policies, cut taxes and spend on the military, don't actually count as fiscal conservatism. They were never really about fiscal conservatism. They were about talking about fiscal conservatism. And then a basic, finance 101, econ 101, when you say, OK, the policy is you cut taxes as much as possible, reduce revenue, and then you spend more on the military. That's not actually fiscally conservative. And now they're not even pretending to be about that. So I agree very much with what Alexander Bolton concludes here, which is the Republican Party is right to worry that fiscal conservatism as a rallying cry and unifying sort of policy, it's not even really a policy idea. It's a framework. It's a bullet point of some kind. It's no longer working. And you have many Republicans approving of Biden's stimulus plan, many Republicans approving of Biden's proposed infrastructure plan. They're going to have to come up with something else. They seem to be going in the direction of making it these culture issues. The question is whether even that will work, because support for movements like Black Lives Matter is up even among the right. Not by that much, but all of the hammering on BLM by the right hasn't decreased support, hasn't increased much, but it hasn't decreased it. So I don't actually know what they need to do to win the hearts and minds of voters, which explains perfectly why they are focusing on suppressing the vote. They're realizing they're having trouble winning any other way. And so you suppress the vote, you try to win in that way. And that's exactly what they admitted they were going to do back in 2012. You go to the video of Mike Turzai, Pennsylvania, saying voter ID is going to help Mitt Romney win some states. That's not Mitt Romney's going to come up with great ideas. It's not Mitt Romney understands what it is that the average American wants. It's voter ID will help Mitt Romney win. It didn't. He lost badly to Barack Obama. But this was all predictable. It's been predictable for a decade, and it is happening right now. The question is, do they double down on the voter suppression, or do they start trying to win on policy? It seems that they're doing the voter suppression. Don't forget that one of the best ways to support the David Pakman Show is by supporting our sponsors. And today, one of those sponsors is Sheath Underwear. Sheath Underwear makes boxer briefs specifically designed to prevent the sticking, the rubbing, the chafing that many of us know all too well with traditional boxer briefs. Sheath boxer briefs have multiple ergonomic compartments in the front to prevent skin-on-skin contact, keeping everything separate, cool, dry, and comfortable. Extra helpful now that the weather is warming up. No more sweatiness, no more chafing, no more readjusting. Sheath Underwear is giving the David Pakman Show audience 20% off when you go to sheathunderwear.com/Pakman. Use the promo code Pakman. Give Sheath Underwear a try. I've had a great experience with it. I think you will too. You can find the link right underneath this video, and don't forget to use promo code Pakman for 20% off.